We are back on Morning Line. Nick Barris here along with Clint Kelly, malpractice attorney. Your office is in Hendersonville, and I've been out there before, and we'll have his contact information for you up at the end of the program. And you know, it's funny, he and I were sitting here, we go back a ways doing shows together, and last April it was slow also. I'm telling you, sometimes he's on and the phone lines are completely full. This morning, more scattershot. So if you have a question or comment, you have a chance to jump in right now, 737-7587, as we were talking about whether or not you know you have a malpractice case. Again, the difference is, and we have had calls, and maybe someone out there might call in along the lines of, you know, I had a heart procedure or I had knee replacement or something like this that didn't go just right. The fact that it doesn't go just right doesn't mean you have a case.
Right. You and I've discussed this before. It's the bad outcome, which is someone who goes in and has a procedure and it didn't turn out, as you say, the right way, but the doctor did what he was supposed to do, or the nurses provided the proper care. That happens because there's no guarantee of a good result, and because of that, and there are quite a few of my calls that come in that are just simply bad outcomes. I tell the client, look, you don't have a claim here. I'm sorry about what happened to you, but I can't prove there was a violation of the rules. On the other hand, if you have somebody coming into a hospital with extreme chest pain and they don't get an EKG done, instead they get what they call a GI cocktail because they're diagnosed with indigestion. They go home the next day and have the big one and die. That's clearly a case where there was that's not a bad outcome, that's a death as a result of bad care. And so that's a case that you would take.
What's the threshold for how much hospitals or doctors, when you go to the emergency room, are supposed to do? I think you just hit it there. You have that symptom, you should get an EKG. But I do wonder too, if in an abundance of caution to avoid a potential lawsuit down the road, a doctor ordering a ton of tests for you, that's going to be expensive, you know, and they're covering their butt maybe by covering every possibility. I mean, I always wonder about that. Are they ordering stuff up that's really necessary?
Don't you want to get defensive medicine? Don't you want to be defended to the fullest extent?
I just wonder how far they go. I mean,
far enough to keep you from being misdiagnosed and dying. I mean, that's defensive medicine is the word that's used, where there's additional tests that are ordered that some people think are unnecessary because doctors are protecting themselves from lawsuits. No, what doctors are doing is they're protecting the patients. I think that if I'm a patient, I want as many tests that are necessary to make sure I don't have something wrong with me or that something's not missed. That to me is a defense against a bad outcome, and I don't have any problem with that at all.
Okay, good.
That's my take on it.
I know. Listen, look, and I'll take your take. 8:30. That's when the calls start coming. So let's go, man. Here we go. All right. Gay. Good morning, Gay. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. About the chiropractic situation, my father nearly died from what they called his treatment by packing his nose when he had a nosebleed. He eventually went to a VA hospital where he was treated. My main reason for calling, though, was for the attorney. When was this statute of limitations eliminated or reduced down to 0?
Well, to one year, I think, is what we were saying.
Yeah, it's.
Which year did this happen? And was it pushed through by Republican legislators?
Not every state has it like that, right? A year. It varies state to state. So
that's correct. Okay. Tennessee is one of the shortest out there. In fact, I'm trying to think of another state that has just a 1 year. I think Kentucky may have one as well. But let me get to Gay's point. Gay said, was it passed by Republicans? Gay, this law has been on the books for decades.
Okay.
And it got passed really at the behest of the insurance industry when they were passing the statute of limitations for car wrecks and other types of product liability cases. They also got it passed for medical negligence. So it has been around for quite some time. But with that said, I want to go a little further with you. The Republicans have passed a lot of tort reform over the last 6 years, and in particular with regard to medical malpractice, because of the types of procedural requirements patients have to go through in order to get their day in court. So they have made it much, much harder for patients to get compensated. In my opinion, they've tilted the playing field in favor of the doctors and the hospitals.
Go ahead, Gay. Does that answer your question?
I appreciate that. Yeah. I didn't know. I kind of keep track of our two states, Tennessee and Kentucky, but I've heard this statute of limitations mentioned so many times lately with the other Nick and Mr. Cannon that people just don't realize that you can have a medical condition that will, you try to deal with it for a while, but then by the time it's intolerable, it's too late to file a claim.
Or, Gay, you get in a situation where the doctor tells you or reassures you, look, you're going to get better, you're going to get better, let's wait till the end of the year and see how it goes. And then when the years run out and you're not substantially better, oops, sorry, I was wrong, and your claim's gone. So again, that's the reason why I encourage anybody who thinks they may have a claim and they've been seriously injured, just pick up the phone and call me. It costs nothing. And it may be the difference between you getting to court and not getting to court.
Will you be putting his phone number up?
As a matter of fact, I will, Gay. Listen, we'll have his number up at the end of the program. Stick around for that. And that's a great point. Just let people know if when they call in, they'll talk to your assistant. And it's basically, you may not have one, but if you have any suspicion after the fact, a week or two, maybe the day after you come back, just make the call and describe it, and then you guys will decide whether there's something there. If you just put it off or ignore it, and then all of a sudden a year later something really bad occurs, it's too late.
You know, Nick, a decent analogy is someone who feels like they're sick and puts off going to the doctor for a long period of time and then eventually waits too late, and as a result of that, whether it's a heart condition, whether it was seriously injured, if you think you have a claim, there's no reason in the world to put it off, because it's a simple phone call. Again, it costs nothing, and it can make the difference between whether you're going to get your day in court or not.
Yeah, and we should say this too. A lot of you are like, well, I don't have money to hire an attorney. Let's say you do call and you have a case, and Clint will, then you'll go in and meet with him, I'm sure. How do you get paid?
I get paid only if the client gets paid.
Which is why he's very selective on his cases.
Exactly, and because we take the risk or shoulder the expenses to pursue the case, and we obviously shoulder the labor, and as a result of that, we're taking a chance. Hopefully a reasoned chance that we will win the case or get a good settlement for the client, and therefore that's the way we get paid. If we lose, client owes nothing. Right. So that's one way that takes a great deal of risk off the client, puts it on me, but that's okay. That's my business. I don't mind doing that.
What percentage do you take when you win?
A third by law.
A third by law. All right, let's go next to Denise. Hi, Denise.
Hi.
Good morning. How can we help you?
A question.
Sure.
Kind of. I went to the hospital on a Friday with my left arm as big as the Hulk. I'm not exaggerating. And all they did was admit me and give me IV. My arm continued and continued and continued to swell to where Monday morning I had this big knot the size of a golf ball on my arm. A real doctor, I don't know what he was, finally comes in, looks at my arm, and tells me I need immediate surgery or I'm going to lose my arm. Question is, with me going in with that type of situation and my arm doing what it kept doing all weekend, shouldn't someone of official status been called in to look at me instead of waiting until Monday morning to where I got in the position of needing surgery? I know I'm out of the statute of limitations, but I still have excessive problems with my arm.
You had surgery? They did do the surgery?
Oh, yeah, they did.
What was wrong with the arm?
For another week. They never told me.
Huh. Okay.
Never told me when I first got there. I think they thought it was some kind of infection or something. But after a few days, they should have known. I had gone to my regular doctor when it first started doing everything, and they thought maybe I had sprained it or something. It was nowhere near that big, you know. And he told me to keep it elevated and use an ice pack. And come Friday, when my husband came home from work, he looked at it and said, "Oh, heck no, you're going to the hospital," you know.
Wow.
And they immediately looked at me and cut me.
Whoa. It sounds like what she's describing is there was a misdiagnosis. Somebody looked at this and misdiagnosed it either in terms of its severity or the condition, and then finally somebody recognized it at a point where, well, it sounds like her husband recognized it, and then she finally got to a healthcare provider and they operated on her. Now, you know, in that type of situation, the first issue would be, was there a misdiagnosis? The second issue would be, did that cause an injury which would not otherwise have occurred? I can't tell how she recovered from the surgery, but you know, she just said the most important thing at the beginning, which is the statute of limitations probably bars the claim, and that hurts when I hear that, because patients in her situation deserve to have their claim evaluated.
She sure does. I mean, how long ago did that happen, just out of curiosity, Gail?
A year and a half.
Yeah, just a half a year. I'm so...
A year and a half.
Yeah, a year and a half. Did you suspect something may have been wrong and it never occurred to you to maybe try calling a lawyer?
Well, it did to me, but my husband and everything said, just, you're alive, let it go.
Yeah. Well,
He's like that, you know, he's real, just let it go.
yeah.
So that's what we did.
That's a very, very common thing, Nick, what
Yeah,
Denise is saying.
said,
And some people say it to themselves, let it go. You've got some health remaining. The ones that you can't let go are the ones where someone's in a wheelchair, or they've lost a limb, or they've lost their eyesight, lost their ability to earn a living. They simply can't let that go, or shouldn't let that go, because 1 year, two, you may be like Denise and call a year and a half later and say, you know, gee, I wish I had pursued that.
Right.
And there's nothing that I can do about it. You know, it's too late. That's why you should always at least get advice or a consultation, and then after that make a decision.
Yeah, so again, because if her arm's injured at this point, something along those lines. I mean, and the thing is, I want to be clear, when they call, like we already discussed, you know, they'll talk to your assistant, eventually talk to you. If it's a case they accept, I understand wanting to let it go, and I hear what her husband was saying, perhaps, you know, because you've been through this, let's just move on. But once you do call and you take the case, unless it goes to trial or something, aside from meeting with you once or twice, you're doing all the work, right? The patient pretty much is waiting for the process to go. It's not like there's a lot she has to hang on to.
And not paying anything.
She's not paying anything. You can still let go of it, not think about it, and you deal with it.
It's really, in terms of what can be gained, it's fairly painless to go through this process, because all you're really doing is you're participating to the extent of testifying and basically monitoring the case as it goes. But I mean, I'm shouldering 95% of it, so I try to shield the client from as much distress as possible to get them to a point where I can get the case settled. Now, if we have to try the case, it's a different scenario entirely, but yet again, I'm trying to shoulder that burden so that the patient or the client can be free to do the things they want to do in life in order to get their day in court.
Yeah, again, 70% or so, you know, usually we 75 settlement.
We'll
don't
settle.
always have to, we'll settle. Did you say we have to take a break, Mary? Yeah, let's take a break. When we come back, more phone calls. Stay on the hold. We'll be with you right after this.